Welcome to everyone. Welcome to the Lowell City Council meeting. And if everyone would rise, we will recite the council prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Broderick, Mayor Caulfield.
Yep.
Councilor Elliott, Councilor Kazandrian, Councilor Lenzi, Councilor Martin, Councilor Armand Mercier.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo. 7 present, 2 absent.
Motion by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier to accept the minutes of the last meeting and place them on file. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been accepted and placed on file. It is with great pleasure, as the mayor of the city, that I present this citation to Suan. And after I present the citation, Sharon Sawyer from the Lowell Cultural Council will also present an award. And it's a pleasure. And Sayon, if you please come right up to the... Thank you. On behalf of the Lowell City Council and the 104,000 residents who reside in this city, a citation, be it hereby known to all, that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby honors the Cambodian Folk Tales Project for its selection as a 2008 Gold Star Award winner by the Massachusetts Cultural Council. The Cambodian Folk Tales Project builds from a long tradition of Cambodian painting and storytelling in the creation of a series of bound storybooks. The Massachusetts Cultural Council recognized the project for fostering the participation of its audience of young Cambodians while engaging entirely new audiences. The project was also recognized for acting as an important document of the cultural and artistic heritage of the Cambodian people. The City of Lowell extends its deepest wishes for continued success to Sayon Soan and the Cambodian Folk Tales Project, given the 6th day of May, the year 2008, by Mayor Caulfield and the entire City Council and the people who reside in the city. Congratulations.
Mayor Caulfield and councilors, fellow members of the Lowell Cultural Council who have come, and of course the members of the participating students and artists, writers of the Cambodian Folktale Project. My name is Sharon Sawyer, and I'm the chairwoman of the Lowell Cultural Council. I'm here tonight to present the Massachusetts Cultural Council Gold Star Award to the Light of Cambodian Children's Cambodian Folktale Project, one of the projects the Lowell Cultural Council funded in 2007. Before I begin, I wish to remind everyone that there will be a community input meeting at Pollard Memorial Library next Thursday night, May 15th at 6:30, for the public to tell us what they would like the Cultural Council to fund for next year. The Massachusetts Cultural Council's Gold Star Award for Artistic Excellence each year honors exemplary projects funded by local cultural councils. In Massachusetts, there are 329 local cultural councils, awarding more than $2 million to over 5,000 cultural programs per year. The Cambodian Folktale Project this year was one of only 8 programs that received the honor of a Gold Star Award out of more than 5,000 programs funded. The projects chosen for this award celebrate diversity, foster collaboration and community outreach, and showcase artistic excellence, the Cambodian Folktale Project introduced Cambodian youth to storytelling and book illustration through an intensive scholarly and artistic exploration of Cambodian folktales. The participating students, who became the illustrators and the writers of the books, some of which you have in front of you tonight, they're beautiful books, used the skills that they learned through this project to collect age-old stories from their Cambodian elders. The illustrated stories, written in English and Khmer, will preserve an endangered oral tradition of ancient folk tales. These beautiful books will boost literacy for those learning English and Khmer. The first book, The Tiger and the Elephant, which you have in your possession, is the very first bilingual Cambodian folktale ever to be published in the United States. We, the Lowell Cultural Council, are very pleased for the opportunity to fund this project. Anita Walker, the executive director of the Massachusetts Cultural Council, called Lowell, quote, one of the quintessential communities representing what the creative economy is all about. We are very excited tonight to give this Gold Star Award to Sion Soon and Sopi Tiem and the Light of Cambodian Children. Congratulations.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you. I am honored and excited for this award. It's sort of kind of unexpected. When I got a phone call from Sharon's predecessor, Maxine, informing me that we were selected one of the winning the Gold Star Award at the state, and I said, wow, how did I get that? They said, well, we nominated your program, and I was shocked. But I think more importantly, I want to thank all the kids, the committed kids. They're all talented and artistic in their work, so they're working so hard for this book. And I think without further ado, I wanted to say thank you to the Lowell Cultural Council, Massachusetts Cultural Council, the Morgan Cultural Centers that have been funded us, and also the Starbuck Foundation and the Stephen Foundation. But I think Rata Ping is one of the youth who participated in the program. She want to say a few words. Other than that, I would say thank you again to Mr. Mayor and the member of the council. Thanks.
Good evening. I just wrote something that I thought you guys should hear. It's gangs, violence, and shootings describe a lot of things in Lowell, but programs like LCC can help Lowell youth and its images. My experience with Light of Cambodian Children is a positive one. I got to hang out with my friends in a positive environment. The Folktale Project is a project I really enjoy. I like learning all these stories because they all have a moral behind them. Drawing the characters and writing the stories is hard at first, but when I saw the final product, I was proud. I think this program is fun. I get to learn and use Khmer language more. I also get to interact with my elders. The program helped me learn more about myself because to live life, I need to know myself and to better understand where my parents came from, so the result is less conflict in the family. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say, Sayon, your leadership is going to expand to the youth of our city. And congratulations, you deserve that award. You worked hard at it. And best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on with the agenda, do we have any responses from the communications from Manager Lynch for the council to discuss? Councilman Linazzo.
Report that is in our packet regarding the free cash and finances.
Yes.
I just thought it might be a good idea for the viewing audience to get an update as to where we are with the free cash and the finances. So if I could ask the
Yes.
auditor.
Sure. Absolutely. At the end of last year, what we ended up doing was closing a positive balance to undesignated fund balance. That's after we covered almost $2 million in snow and ice for that year. So when you look at the $3 million number, that's the number that we have left over at the close of the year, closing all the revenues, closing all the expenses. As you walk through from that point, the biggest number that actually hits that number would be your deferred revenue. And the deferred revenue is a net of your overlay and your real estate receivables.
Is that the 4,800,000?
Where are you? The 4,000,008. Well, the 4,006,000
4,006,000.
is actually your motor vehicle excise.
Okay.
They add the receivable in, they take the deferred out. Those
Okay.
net to zero.
Okay,
But it's your real estate and personal property that your overlay hits against. They
Okay.
assume that you're going to not collect all that money. We think of it as a reserve, extra money sitting for your abatements and exemptions. They look at it as though you're going to write them all off. So that was the major hit to your free cash number.
Okay.
So in all actuality, by the time we were through, it was a negative 1.1 million, which is a much better position than we were in the prior year, 2.2 million deficit. And the major thing that we did was cover snow and ice. That's it in a nutshell.
okay.
Council, I brought you,
Questions?
I'm
Thank you.
happy you brought that up, because I was going to bring it up as well.
Okay,
It's a motion I filed, and I would like to see the Audit Oversight Committee and the Finance Subcommittee, maybe a meeting of the whole, sit with the auditor and discuss at length. And Council Broderick, you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, we were attempting to select a date last week, and I think there were a couple of conflicting dates, so I think hopefully tonight we can get the subcommittee members together with the auditor after the meeting and the clerk and pick a date in the next few weeks now that everybody's back and we're in full swing.
Right. It's a very important issue, and it's an excellent report, and I think the entire council should probably weigh in on this very important issue. Any other discussion or communications? If not, move to accept the communications placed on file by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Lindsay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Communications are accepted, placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. Constable bonds for Christopher Swim and Patricia Neto. Any questions, any debate on these appointments? If none, roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda, to declare May 5th through May 11th, 2008 as Building Safety Week in the City of Lowell. Move to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, second by Councilor Martin, second reading by title. To declare May 5th through May 11th, 2008 as Building Safety Week in the City of Lowell. Any questions, debate, or issues pertaining to this resolution? Mr. Camacho, you want to say anything pertaining to this before the vote?
I'd like to say that just that we got word last week that the governor recognized it statewide. He'll be celebrating it every week, yearly, whatever week the ICC designates, and I'd appreciate your vote on this. I think it's a good thing. It'll encompass, and from this moment forward, we'll use this week to better reach out to the public and educate the public on what public safety is all about, not just from the building department, but from all the departments and how we work together in the city. Thank you.
The council appreciates you bringing this forward. Roll call. Yeah, Council Broderick, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Camacho, there was a nice handout or an envelope with some handouts on our desk this evening, safety first, building codes, and benefits of building permits. Is there any way, and I don't know if these are copyrighted, but is there any way we could get these on our website, or some type of link that we could, for people that are looking to find out when they need, there could be some information here for people when they need permits and maybe to understand the codes a little bit?
Most definitely. What's one of the objects of our goal at this point is to reach out to the public and use our website to do that. And information like this, I think, is really critical because it solves a lot of problems. And I also think that it sends them directly to the source of where they can get their questions answered.
Super, thank you.
Roll call?
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
9 yes.
Moving on with the agenda. Authorizing the city manager acting through the Historic Board to apply for, accept, and expend a grant in a total amount of $25,000 from the Massachusetts Historical Commission Fiscal Year '08 Survey and Planning Grant Program for staff support of the Historic Board. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Kazanjian, second by Councilor Elliott. All in favor? Waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager acting through the Historic Board to apply for, accept, and expand a grant in a total amount of $25,000 from the Massachusetts Historical Commission Fiscal Year '08 Survey and Planning Grant Program for the staff support of the Historic Board. Any discussion, any debates? Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This kind of took me by surprise because I know that when you think of grants, you think of positions that are funded, and a grant is something like that the city doesn't have to pay for. That was my impression. Then we recall when we had funded positions for the police department, some of them were grant funded and we had to match it. And this is one of these grants where we're applying for $25,000 for a particular position in the historic department, and we got to pay 40%. It's a matching fund, which we would have to pay $18,000. And I know that that probably doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when we're fiscally strapped like towns, surrounding towns are, and the city of Lowell is, you have to watch every single penny. And I know that I'm wondering how many funds and positions are, prevalent in the city that we're matching funds with, and although it's a grant, we're still matching money with it. I want to know, first of all, through Adam Bakey, how important is this position, which I'm sure it will be. We have to pay for this position. How many more do we have in the city? I want to know a little bit more about this. Not that I'm saying we don't need this position, but...
Okay. Well, first to answer the question about the importance of the position, this is clearly an important position, and I think the Massachusetts Historical Commission, in awarding literally 1/3 of the total available funds in this grant program in the entire state to help fund this particular position, I think that speaks to the importance of the position really statewide, not just to us here in Lowell. In terms of the matching requirement, it is our expectation, based on the budgeting that we have done, that any match that's necessary for this position can be funded without causing additional expense to the city budget. This is a position that was actually not funded in the current year FY08 budget, and the city has paid for this position through a combination of grant sources and through Historic Board fees that have come in from filings with the Historic Board. It would be our expectation going forward that this position, again, this is part of the grants that would enable the position to stick around, and it's certainly some of the match could probably be covered with Historic Board fee revenue again. And again, the balance, we would make sure that we wouldn't create any added cost to the city budget for this position.
And thank you, Adam. And I'm not saying that it's not an important position, but if I could, through a motion, ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, how many positions do we have in our budget that we have to match funds with, so that I can get an idea of that? We're trying to save costs, and I don't know. I mean, I vote for a budget, but I don't know the ins and outs that this grant is funded by a grant, but they don't tell me that it's a matching grant, and they don't tell me that this position is costing the taxpayer $18,000 in the budget. How many more of these? So that's my concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick, and Councilor Elliott, Councilor Kazanjian, and Councilor Lenzi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it our understanding that we've been awarded this grant, or are we applying for it? It sounds like we've been awarded.
Accept and expend.
Yes.
Accept.
Okay, so it isn't to accept.
Right.
We know for sure that we're going to be able to cover this. You mentioned the fees for the Historic Board application fees and whatnot. If we don't spend it on this position, can we spend it towards the general fund?
The funds from this grant are specific for this
Right.
position.
I'm sorry.
So I think we would have to return them.
No, I'm sorry, for our portion. You were saying that it won't come out of the budget, or it won't impact the budget, because we're gonna get fees for the historic board application fees and other grants and monies that will help pay the city's portion. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct. The fees for that come in for the historic board are not general fund revenue.
Okay.
So there's a limited, there are limited uses that are allowed for those fees. One of them is the administration of the historic board, which this could contribute to. That would be a legitimate
All right,
use.
so we wouldn't be able to use them for the general fund anyway. I guess that's what I was, wanted to find out for sure. Is this a position that would also be, when I was on the historic board, I think there was some overlap in terms of sometimes with duties, and they could help out over at DPD in case there is a shortage of employees, or if things get tight over there. Is this position going to be able to lend a hand in your department as well?
Well, fortunately, we have a very good staff over there, and generally, people are always willing to lend a hand a little beyond the letter of the duties, and I think this would certainly be the case with this job as well.
Okay. Is this going to be, is this a position that was there before, like a part-time administrator?
It's a position that's been a full-time position with the city now for at least 5 or 6 years. Again, up until the current year budget, this position was funded 100% with city funds. In the current year budget, last May or June, when the current year budget was approved, funding for this position was eliminated. We've been able to carry the position, again, using outside grant funds and historic board revenues. And again, that's what we'd be looking to do in the future. And really, we're looking for the council to endorse basically accept this grant and appropriate the funds for that purpose consistent with the grant.
And last question, if we come back at budget time and find out that this is going to be on the taxpayers as opposed to this grant, other grants, and the historic board fees, what happens if we don't fund it? Give the money back? Or do you know?
I don't think we know the answer to that question necessarily, but I think ultimately it would be our objective, again, to avoid having any responsibility on the city general fund for this position.
Okay. I'm going to support it because, based on the fact that it's an important position, and we're getting the information that this should be supported without hitting the taxpayers. And thank you for your information, Mr. Becky.
Okay, Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple more questions, Mr. Becky. What type of dollar figures does this, is it a revolving fund? Is it a special revenue fund that these historic board fees go into, either you or to the auditor? Is there a special revenue fund that these historic board fees go into?
I believe it's putting into a special revenue fund.
Approximately what does that generate on an annual basis?
I
Do you
couldn't
know?
tell you right off the top of my head.
Unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head either.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think the point's well made. We're going into a budget year, and we hear that, that things are very tight, and the concern is, and I agree that I don't want to fund a position that we'll have to cut shortly thereafter, nor do I want to have to pay unemployment compensation should the grant not be renewed in the future, which clearly is a trend. And I happen to think that, the historic board certainly is an important position, but knowing, are we certain that there's $18,000? I mean, once we hire somebody, can we check into that before we go ahead, or is this something that you're looking to generate throughout the year, Mr. Bakey?
Again, the expectation is that historic board revenue would pay a portion. And again, what we've been able to do in the current year is cobble together a series of grants. The expectation would be we would try to do that again. So I believe it is unlikely that historic board revenue alone would cover $18,000. But I believe it's very likely that some combination of grants and things can be used to cover these costs. So again, there's no responsibility on the general fund.
Okay.
And in this case, with respect to the question of unemployment insurance or unemployment compensation, this is an existing position that is currently occupied. So the vote tonight is not really a question of do we hire a new person or not, who may or may not be a sustainable position beyond the life of this grant. it's already an existing position that we're trying to extend through the use of this grant.
So is the salary the 25,000 plus 18? Is that what the individual's salary is currently?
I believe the total includes the benefits package as well. The 18 plus the 25 would include all the benefits for the position, not just the base salary. The base salary is somewhere around 35,000, I think.
Okay, and just one last question. If these other grants that we go to solicit or look for don't come in, what happens?
Well, ultimately, like virtually any position, particularly those that are grant funded, if the funding is not available for the position, ultimately the only option is to lay off the person in that position.
Okay, I understand the importance of the position, but you understand where we're coming from. Do you have any other certainty that other grants are going to be awarded to support this?
Well, I'm fairly confident that we will be able to do that. Again, if the council feels that no city funds should be spent to match this, we're obviously willing to move forward in that direction. And ultimately, it's a question of, are we potentially laying off a position now if we fail to accept this grant, or are we potentially running the risk of maybe laying off a position sometime in the future if we accept the grant and we aren't able to put the match together?
Okay. Well, quite frankly, when I see a newspaper article that we're having difficulty filling our gas tanks, and then we're looking at this position, you know, when we given that choice, and those are the choices that we're looking at, I have to quite frankly say we have to go with fuel costs. So if the person's hired and we're confident that we're going to be able to, you know, get that grant to fund this, and it'll be supplemented with historic board fees, fine, because we're going to need every nickel, I think, in the general fund. But if the case is the opposite, then you know, I can't say I'd support this, knowing what we have. So I don't know if we can make that a condition. I guess we have to accept the grant or not accept the grant. That's the condition, and that we put these fees towards this position. Correct?
Yeah, I think in terms of what you can or can't do, I would defer to the solicitor.
The solicitor or the auditor?
We'll
battle over it. What I was going to suggest is that, you know, this is your vote authorizing the manager. You can give the manager as much or as little, you know, authority as you want. So certainly, I think if you wanted to condition this and bring it up when the manager is back next week, and to have an opportunity to explain exactly what it is the council is concerned about, you could go ahead, authorize the manager to apply, except not yet expend those funds. Might be another potential solution.
Yeah, well, I just think that's the responsible thing. It doesn't mean that we're opposed to it, but we don't want to go ahead if we don't know that we can meet these financial obligations.
I'm not sure how time sensitive this particular, you know, if this can be tabled till next week, until the manager comes back, and in the meantime, the message can be delivered to him to pull together some of the information that we just don't have for you this evening, such as what is the revenue that comes in through the historic board, and what are the potential other sources of funding. Okay, well, I know other members want to speak, so thank you, Mr. Bakey.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Mr. Backey. I just have a couple of questions. I think Mr. Elliott already asked them, but this job was, previous year was fully funded with grant money, is that correct?
But in the current year, it was. In the prior years before this year, it was funded with city money.
Okay. So right now, we're looking at a 40%. That's my problem with the grants. First year, they start off great. Then the following year, it's like we have to pay 40%. Then the year after that, 60%, and just keeps on going on. And eventually, the city takes that job, and we're funding it 100% in a course of 2 or 3 years. I am not opposed. I am opposed to what's going on here. I don't want to lay somebody off, but again, the state has warned us. We have to tighten up our belt, and we have budget crisis, and the money's just not there. So I would probably like to either put it off to the following week, next week, and I don't think the manager, we have to ask the manager many questions. I think Mr. Backey has answered pretty much most of the questions. I think it's, what we have to do is with the solicitor is, can we put conditions on this? I don't want the city to pay $18,000 for the job that we're going to have to pay, that we're going to get $25,000 for grant money. So maybe put a condition on it, if we wait till the following, next week, put a condition on it somehow, if we do, go forward with it and see what they have to say as far as, coming up with some type of fully funded money for grant money. Mr. Backey says he's confident that it can be done, but if it can't be done, then we'll just have to eliminate the job. That's how I feel.
That's a prudent approach, Counselor. Counselor Lindsay?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Adam, in your experience, is that a trend as to grant funds that we receive? Do they tend to increase from year to year? Or?
Well, it really depends on the grant. In this case, this would be an increase because this is not funds we had last year or the current year, and it would be new funds for next year.
But as far as proportionally, what we pay proportionally, do these grants tend to lessen, and we have to pick up a larger percentage of the salary, for instance?
Well, I certainly can't speak for other departments, but with respect to to my department, I don't believe we've had, in the time I've been with the city, any positions that were grant funded before that have moved on and been picked up by the city side. Again, I can't speak to other departments with respect to that.
Okay. I'm going to support this motion. I think that we're going to need to become creative come budget time when there's positions that I think are going to have to be looked at here. And I'm a big fan of applying for as many grants as we possibly can. I think that's going to play a big role in sustaining jobs and positions like this in the future. So I'm going to support the motion as a percentage, and hopefully that we can go forward with this position. I think it is important.
You support the request that's before you?
The request.
Not Councilor Cassandra's motion?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know I haven't been here in a couple of weeks, so maybe my thinking is not clear, but I think the council has the exact backwards approach to this issue. We have a position that we're paying for this year, $43,000. The state has come forward and offered to pay $25,000 of that. This year, the city's paying it all. We're paying all of it. And now we're only going to have to pay 40% of it. And Mr. Backey's assured us that that additional money won't come from the operating budget, won't be on the backs of the taxpayer, like it wasn't this year for the whole thing. So if we could do it this year for the whole thing, I'm pretty sure we could do it next year for 40%. I think this is an endorsement by the Mass Historic Commission of the confidence they have in our historic people. I know Mass Historic values the historic assets we have in Lowell. And I applaud DPD for seeking out these funds and for lessening the burden. If the council wants to condition this vote on funds not coming from the operating budget, I'm all for that. And I don't frankly see the need to delay. I don't know why we can't do that tonight, but I'm happy to wait a week. But I think the discussion here is completely the opposite. We're worried about money having to pick up extra money when we're already picking up the whole thing. We're getting relief here. We're not looking to add burden. We're getting relief. So I support the vote as proposed. I won't oppose it being delayed a week, but I don't frankly see the need.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for a point of clarification, Mr. Baker, is that the case, as Councilor Martin just stated, that the money was fully funded by a grant, and now it's being discounted back 40%?
In fiscal year 2007, which was the prior fiscal year, this position was funded 100% by city funds.
By city funds, okay.
In fiscal year 2008, which is the current year that we're in, no city funds were spent on this position, and we've actually used a series of grants to cover this position in addition to some historic board fee revenue. For the upcoming year, we are proposing to again use no city funds for this position, but use a combination of grants and historic board revenue. The first of the grants is this $25,000.
Okay. Again, I would support the vote based upon Mr. Bakey's answer to the question. I'd also state that, as we all know, this is the 30th anniversary of the National Park, and I think that it's important to, and again, I'm not questioning the council, because from the standpoint of looking at the budget coming up, we do have to look at every position, but I think it's important to continue to work with groups like Mass Historical Commission and certainly our own historic board in making sure that the original intent of the national park continues to get carried out. Also, as you look at the Hamilton Canal plan and the work that the Historic Board is going to be doing as we carry out the Hamilton Canal proposal going forward, I think this position is a position that is very important to the Historic Board Administrator, again, going forward, relative to the Hamilton Canal and obviously other properties within the historic district. So again, if we can go forward, as Mr. Bakey just indicated, that we'll use this grant as well as additional funds and not use any city funds, I certainly will support the vote. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor
So,
Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, is there an amendment to the ordinance, or, I mean, in order to proceed?
There's
to
no
make-
amendment. There's,
I mean, a
Councilor
subs-
Kazanjian brought forward a motion to delay a week. I think the votes are there, and maybe if we did delay it a week, DPD could bring back some important information. I think in the long run, the council will support this, but I think some councils are looking for some information pertinent to the vote.
Well, just personally, I mean, I'm ready to move forward, and I don't want to delay. I just want to make sure, and I think all of us want to just make sure that this is going to be funded through grants and that there won't be a burden on the tax rate, because it's not funded in the FY08 budget, and it's completely funded by grants. So if that's the case, I don't know what Councilor Kazanjian's substitute motion was. Maybe you can repeat it for us.
I just want to put, if we're going to vote on it tonight, I'd like to put a condition on it that it is going to be subsidized by grant money and not city-funded money.
That's fine, I'll second it.
Mr. Sheehan would like to address the council. Council Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I just ask a question? This money's available as a grant. Can we accept it conditionally? I don't know as if necessarily this is 1/3, you know, they're giving us they have funds to fund 1/3 of what the requests are, and they've chosen us, and we send it back saying, we'll take it if. Is that going to knock it out of the box? I mean, what we're hearing is it was funded 100% by grants, a number of grants that the DPD applied for. And this year, this is the first one, it's going to fund 60%. I understand that, you know, and I think I was clear earlier, I don't want to see this go on the tax rolls because it hasn't been, and I think that DPD is assuring us as best they can that getting a big piece like this, the rest of the ducks will fall in line, the 40%, including the historic, the permit fees and the board fees that they collect. But I have a concern that a vote that conditions it upon us obtaining other grants is going to just knock it out of the box. I don't know as if we necessarily can do that. I would be concerned about doing that. I don't know if we can get an answer if anyone knows.
Mr. Sheehan, you have the floor.
Councilor, what typically happens with the grants is that the city would have to prove at the end of the grant cycle that it matched the amount that it was required to match. So, you know, I don't think the condition that is being discussed is a deal breaker per se, but if we got to the end of next fiscal year and we weren't able to prove that we provided the required match, then the city might be on the hook to repay that $25,000. However, I think I think it would be beneficial for everybody if we put this off for a week. We can get the information that the council is looking for, show what the funding sources have been this year, and what the historic board revenues have been, so that we can put these concerns hopefully to rest.
Mr. Moses?
I'd like to stress that typically when a position is funded partially out of a grant, that the control over the use of city funds is not in the acceptance of the grant, but in the appropriation of the money through the budget process. If for some reason there wasn't enough money to fund this position entirely out of the grant, and the administration submitted a budget containing 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 hours of this position in the budget, it's the city council that could vote not to fund that. And that's where the appropriate control over city dollars is, not in the acceptance of the grant, but in the appropriation process.
Counsel Elliott?
I agree, Mr. Moses. I guess my concern or my problem with that is that this is a reimbursable grant. So we're going to go out, we will accept the grant, and the condition is that it's an 18,000 or 40% match. So whether we come up with the money or we don't come up with the money, Mass Historical Commission is going to say, look, you accepted the grant, and in order to get reimbursed that 25,000, you've got to show us. So I think we're on the hook one way or the other if we accept that grant, correct? Considering it's reimbursement, it's a reimbursable grant.
I don't think you are on the hook, because don't forget, the position is fully funded by grants through June 30th. You are setting the budget prior to June 30th. So if we don't have the match, you will know that prior to June 30th. You will have eliminated the position for fiscal '09 and not be on the hook for it.
So this grant it starts January 1st of fiscal year '09, July 1.
I'm not sure about the terms of this particular grant. However, the position is already funded for '08 through the full year.
Can I make a suggestion? The administration more or less said delay for a week. Nothing's going to be hurt by doing so. That will give DPD time to put of advantages and disadvantages to this vote, and how it's going to help the city, and how it will affect the city fiscally as well. Do you see any problem with doing that, delaying it for a week? Because I think the votes are there to support it, but I think there are some councilors who are looking for a little more information. So, Adam?
Just as a courtesy, if I could request that if you wish to delay it, if you could actually delay it 2 weeks, so that I can actually participate in the conversation at the next meeting, because I won't be able to be at the meeting.
First of all, I have to get something from the floor to support that.
Motion to delay for 2 weeks.
A second.
All in favor of the motion presented by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Guzan? Any debate, any discussion?
No, but Mr. Mayor, did I not ask through a motion as well if we could have a list of all the people that are on grant-funded positions that the city has to match? Maybe it's 3 people, maybe it's nobody.
Let us take a vote on this original motion, then we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, now, if we do delay it 2 weeks, there's no, the grant does not become in jeopardy in any way?
No, I don't think so. No. All in favor of delaying this vote for 2 weeks, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Councilor Mercia, you had another motion.
Yes, I'd like a motion to request that the manager provide us with a list of any city employee through a grant-funded position, only that the city has to match. There's probably a lot of people probably on a grant-funded position, but we don't have to match it. I don't care about that, but I do care about money that we have to match.
I'll second that. I think it's a great motion.
Seconded by
yeah.
Councilor
I'll second that.
Kazanjian. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We are now going to go into a public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, is amended with respect to Chapter 4 thereof, entitled Animals, Article 2, entitled Regulation of Dogs, by adding additional regulations regarding designated off-leash areas. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium and give us your name and address, please.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, for the record, my name is Ann Barton. I'm the Deputy Director of the Division of Planning and Development, and I'd like to just pass out a draft of a booklet that we've prepared that gives you some background on the development of the park, its rules, regulations, release of liability, and at the very back is a small plan showing the concept for the park, or the layout of the park, which essentially consists of fencing, parking area, that is, we're utilizing an old tennis court at the First Street Park. It had been abandoned, it's used for several years. We have worked and been fortunate to have an organized group that promoted the development of this type of park, Lowell Unleashed, and I think you'll hear from some of those folks tonight. They promote responsible dog ownership, and we have geared the development of this park towards the same. And the rules, I think, will indicate that. We've got a very strict set of rules, proceeding cautiously with this, some self-policing on the part of the group, some participation in the development and providing some of the materials needed to run the park. So we hope that you can look favorably upon this. It is Lowell's first dog park, a new recreational opportunity that we hope you will favor. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Arnott, and I'm the president of Lowell Unleashed, and I'm going to represent the views of the board of directors for Lowell Unleashed tonight, just in the essence of time, so you don't have to listen to us all say the same thing over and over again. Just a brief history for anyone that doesn't know Lowell Unleashed. We were formed by 8 women who never met. We just met in passing, walking our dogs, decided that something needed to be done, and now, a year later, we're comprised of 9 board members, 50 registered members, and over 200 subscribers to our monthly newsletter. First, I'd like to commend all of the city council and other city officials for responding so quickly and in such a positive manner to the lobbying efforts of a small community organization like ours. That says a lot for you as city officials to respond that way. Currently, dog owners in Lowell have no legal safe place to exercise and socialize their dogs, and anyone who has had any experience with dogs know that a tired dog is a happy dog, and that makes neighbors happy as well. We're forced to visit other communities such as Somerville or Derry, New Hampshire, just to let our dogs run off that extra energy. Many may suggest, sure, you could walk your dog on the streets of Lowell, but for some this isn't an option. We have many older residents who just aren't physically capable of walking their dogs anymore, and there's also issues of disabilities in the city, people who are in wheelchairs, and the narrow sidewalks and sad condition of those sidewalks just keeps people and limits the ability to navigate the city in a wheelchair, especially with a dog in tow. A dog park would also allow residents to socialize their dogs safely and keep residents from traveling to other areas to exercise their dogs. And it will also attract new residents with all the dog-friendly condos sprouting up around the city. You're going to bring in a lot of people who are, hip to that new metro idea of having a dog in the city and having available areas for them. A park would also serve as a new community meeting place, promoting a community bond between people who may not have other avenues that they'd like to seek out. Just these girls behind me and several others I hadn't known about a year ago, and now we talk constantly and we're very good friends. Now, as a group, Lowell Unleashed promises to continue our mission for responsible dog ownership and advocate for responsible use of this park. And we urge you today to amend the leash law to allow off-leash recreation at the First Street location. So thank you, and dog be with you.
Anyone else who would like to speak in favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those who wish to speak in opposition? 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 Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the board?
Move approval.
Move approved by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Garcia. Any discussion in debate? Council Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm noticing this more and more, that when residents have a request, whether it be for a dog park or a skateboard park or a water spray park, they don't only come before us and ask the council and the city, please help us out with this particular request. They ask us, and then they put their minds to work and they do everything possible to make it happen. And I know that looking at these rules and regulations, it took many, many, many hours and deliberate time and energy and thought. And I just commended the people that are doing all the legwork, the brain work and everything. I'm just very pleased that we have people of upstanding character and concern to come forward and not only ask for something, but put their heart and soul into it, as these people are doing here. And I support it.
Roll call. Council Elliott?
I agree, and I have to commend them. They had a concern, they had an issue, they had an idea, and they really put it into place in the city. I think the city did a good job in trying to help and identify a park. I like the speaker's comment. A tired dog is a happy dog, and it's also a happy owner. So having a place for people to be able to go. If you go up to the Riley School on Sunday mornings, you can't imagine how many people are up there. And, you know, it's a good thing. It's another part of the population that people can go to a place now and enjoy. And I think it's a terrific idea, and I'm going to wholeheartedly support it.
Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I've seen Councilor Elliott at the gym at the Riley School, and a tired counselor is a happy counselor. But let me say, if somebody shows up without a license on their collar and things, who's going to monitor this? Is it?
That will come up at the next session of vote the regulations and so forth. So we're going to have another public hearing after this.
Follow-up session.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the residents for their patience with us. I know they were very complimentary of actions on behalf of the council and other members of city staff and administration, and this has been a cooperative effort, but sometimes you'd have a hard time convincing residents that a year was quick action. So really want to thank them for their patience with us as the city worked through something we've really never undertaken before.
Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lindsay?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
9 yeas.
We're still under the guidance of a public hearing. Vote to adopt the regulations of dogs as amended by adopting of previous ordinances. Those wishing to come and speak in favor to the podium, please give us your name and address. Those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? In favor? The portion of the hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition to adopt the regulations of dogs as amended by adopting of previous ordinances. Public hearing is closed. Councilor Broderick.
Mr. Mayor, what is this we're voting on? Did we not vote for the regulations on the last vote?
No. This is the solicitor presented. I believe you have this on your desk too, that we have to follow up with this vote.
Okay, all right.
Okay. In other words, we created a dog park. Now there's a second phase of the regulations pertaining to the dogs. I believe that's so.
All right. Thank you.
Any discussion, any debate? I just want to say that I'm happy to vote for both of these issues. And I just would like, for those who, I know the responsible dog owners will do it, but those who take the dog for a walk in that park, make sure that they live up to the responsibilities of taking care of the dog after you go through that walk. And I don't want to go into it, but you know what I'm saying. And some people do, and there's some people who don't. So with that said, roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lindsay?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Congratulations on your dog park. Moving on with the agenda. Vote authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of Richard T. Underwood and Thomas F. Underwood in the amount of $40,000 to purchase property located at 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Arman Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Full reading is waived. Second reading by title. Authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal of Richard T. Underwood and Thomas F. Underwood in the amount of $40,000 to purchase property located at 2628 Lawrence Street, Lowell, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfers of the property. Any discussion, any debate? Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question that once the new owners purchase this property, must they now be under the Historic Board rules and regulations? And the reason that I ask this question is because At one point in time, the Mass Historic Commission contributed $85,000 for restoration. So while the city owns it, the city sells it to the people that have the most appropriate request for proposal here, are they under that?
I would say that Adam Backey could answer that question thoroughly.
Yes, the funding from the Massachusetts Historical Commission that went into this building a few years ago came with a requirement that there be a deed restriction placed on the property, that it be maintained to historic standards.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Backey, I suppose. Out of this 40,000, how much does the city get? Does it go to the historic board as the owner, or what's the what happens with the funds? What fund will it go into? I know when this came up, because of the restriction, there was some argument as to what the price should be, on a bid because of the restriction. The Historic Society doesn't get their money back, correct? This will stay with the city?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you know what fund? Maybe you can ask the auditor, where will this go?
General fund. Go into the general fund. Yeah.
If it's in tax title, it'll go to the general fund.
Okay. I didn't know if it was because it was owned by the historic board, if it would have to stay over there. But, okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Adam. The map that's attached to the vote actually does highlight in red the building in question with the 2 units. It does seem, though, however, to leave out what looks to be 28 Lawrence Street. Is that the correct address? Because I know the vote does say 2628 Lawrence Street, but it looks like the outline in red.
Yeah, the vote is correct. It looks like the city's GIS website has mislabeled the buildings on the printout.
Okay.
The building that's labeled 28 on the map is actually 32, which Mr. Underwood actually already owns.
Okay.
And the buildings that are being sold are 26 and 28
Very good.
Lawrence Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we take the vote, we looked at the Rialto Theater for 20 years, and that is finally going to be renovated. That diamond that's in the rough is going to be buffed and shined by Middlesex Community College, and now we can say 26 and 28 Lawrence Street is going to go on the tax rolls. And Mr. Underwood, good luck with that building. Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
9 yes.
Moving on with the agenda, authorizing the city manager to execute a consent for access to property for Keyspan Energy delivery relative to performing environmental assessments activities at 90 Lisa Lane, Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to execute a consent for access to property for Keyspan Energy delivery relative to performing environmental assessment activities at 90 Lisa Lane, Lowell. Any discussion? Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Assistant City Manager, can you just explain what's going on here? It discusses environmental assessment and,
I believe this is access for a cleanup of the site.
is 90 Lisa, is that a private property or is it, Madam Solicitor?
It's city-owned property, Counselor, but there's, my understanding, it's open land. It's up towards the opening of a high-tension wire power line area. And Keyspan had undertaken some limited soil testing, which luckily has proved to be negative, non-remarkable. But they are going to expand that territory, and this is all in conjunction with working with DEP.
So are they responsible for any cleanup if they're just doing an assessment?
Right now, they're just undertaking the assessment, and if there's a cleanup, that's yet to be determined, but this is all under, again, in conjunction with DEP. Somebody would have to pay for even the initial testing. Keyspan has stepped up and has taken care of that portion of it. The ultimate question as to whether there is a cleanup that's going to be necessary and who ultimately is going to pay for it has not yet been determined, but sort of one step at a time. But what's being done is something that has to be done.
Just one more question, Mr. Mayor. What type, how much are we, how much property are we talking about here, square footage? It doesn't say it in the
Yeah, I'm
motion.
not sure exactly what the scope of the expanded scope of the area is. I know that it was fairly limited to begin with. There were
Okay.
actually suspicious-looking soils that prompted this testing to begin with. And again, the suspicious-looking soils turned out to be, unremarkable. And the hope would be that even with this more expanded survey done and testing done, that it will continue to prove unremarkable.
Are there a lot of homes close to this property? I mean, Lisa Lane is
I'm not
a
sure
fair
how.
amount of homes on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how close the homes are, but again, this portion is right at the opening of the high power line.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sheehan?
The parcel in question is at the end of Lisa Lane. There's another street on the other side of this parcel, which I forget the name of.
I think
but
is
a
it Laurie
fairly-
Lane? Might be Laurie Lane on the other side. I have an understand.
It is a fairly large parcel, however, it looks like scrap left over at the end of subdivision processes that somehow came into city ownership. There are houses at the end of Lisa and on the other street that's on the other side of this parcel. Again, this lies between the end of Lisa and the end of whatever that next street is. I apologize for not knowing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before we take a roll call vote, I would like to recognize National Grid, which is Keyspan. Last Friday, National Grid supplied over 100 employees. They volunteered to clean the Western Canal. T.J. McCarthy was there, and Councilor Lindsay was there supplying all of the nourishment that they needed. But, Mr. Manager, can we send them a card of thanks? The mayor's office will do the same. And out of the 100 employees that offered to volunteer to clean the canal, about 90 of them didn't live in Lowell. So it was a nice gesture on their part, and they worked tirelessly on that whole thing. Michael Creasy from the National Park was there as well. But I'd just like to let that be known that we're always picking on National Grid, but they offered their services last Friday, and they did a great job for us. Roll call?
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Moving on with the agenda, authorizing the city manager to execute license agreement between the City of Lowell and the Gemini Financial Group, LLC, Bad Dogs, for use of a portion of city property adjacent to the premises at 72 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Rita Mercia. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title. Authorizing the city manager to execute license agreement between the City of Lowell and the Gemini Financial Group, LLC, Bad Dogs, for use of a portion of city property adjacent to the premises at 72 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Any discussion, any debate? Roll call.
Councilor Broderick? Yes. Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda. And City Council ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 2 thereof, administration, by adding the following in Article 4, Division 7, Office for Cultural Affairs and Special Events, a new division of City Manager's Office, and creating one director full-time and establishing the salary thereof. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Second reading by title, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 2 thereof, administration, by adding the following in Article 4, Division 7, Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, a new division of City Manager's Office, and creating one director full-time and establishing the salary thereof. I just want to let the council know that on your desk, the city clerk put a copy of the ordinances that were brought in February. And you, if you look at those ordinances and this ordinance, you can see the amended changes in those ordinances. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, they were put on our desk, but I didn't have a time to compare what was there before in February and what was there now. I didn't have time to see it. So it's nice that it was presented to us, but I haven't seen it. And I still have numerous questions regarding this ordinance. And with the utmost respect to you, Mr. Interim Manager, I feel that Bernie Lynch should be here when this vote comes in before us, and he's not here this evening. I want to make it perfectly clear that even though this ordinance states that the salary will be X amount of money and the rest must be from grants, after what we just experienced with the historic grant and a 40% match from the city, it becomes a game of, well, the city will still supplement the salary. Because when you hear the word grant and you think it's free and you think that they're going for a cultural grant, they will. How do we know and how can we be reassured that there's no conditions placed on this, that it'll come before us in the form of for the city to supplement that salary? And that is not acceptable to me during these extremely hard times. And I'm not saying this because I don't support this. I do. I think we're making headway. But then again, I never received a call from the manager telling me any of this. Never received a call. Never talked about this. Didn't even know it was coming before us this evening, which is unacceptable again because he's not here. I will be more diligent now in scrutinizing every dime that comes before me until it makes sense, and I will not support it until I have a guarantee that there is no catch, and I will be on my guard. I will be, and I'm going to be after I heard a statement saying, well, you voted for it on the budget last time. There's a line item on the budget for $100,000 for Cultural Council. I want, when the budget comes up this time, that I will specify that that money does not go to supplement anybody's salary. Absolutely not. I want to know, my questions are, I want to know how many positions...
Councilor, could I just interject?
Oh.
I would like to recognize the city solicitor, please.
If this helps answer the question that I think you're raising, the new ordinance does specify that in the event that such cultural grants are not available in whole or in part for any given fiscal year, the director's salary will be adjusted accordingly.
That's right. What does that mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
That if I could explain it, that in the event that the grant money, the salary is $45,999 from the general fund, but there's also additional grant monies available. If the grant monies are not available in whole or part, then the salary is adjusted accordingly, meaning those funds won't be available, and all that will be available is what has typically been budgeted from year to year with respect to this position.
Well, you're explaining it, but that's not the way that I understood it through this.
Council, what is the...
I just wanted to delay it a week till the manager could be here and we could ask him some questions. I just want to make the motion then, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Broderick?
that we delay this for a week till the manager comes back.
Are we voting to send it to a public hearing?
Yes, we are.
But you could
The
delay...
public hearing will be in 2 weeks, correct?
Right.
Well, it all depends. If we delay it a week, it will be the 27th of May or the 20th of May. All depends what the council wants.
Yeah, can I just ask, because I haven't had an opportunity to review what was left on our desks this evening. Are these the ordinances that were given to us in February?
Yes.
So I already had these. I didn't need to get them tonight to be able to scrutinize it and compare it to what we got Friday in the packet?
I had requested the manager to put those in the packet, and I didn't know this was coming in the packet for tonight, but I asked him to put those in the packet so the council could, once again, look at the amendments that were made.
Okay. I'm not going to support delaying it. I think we have 2 weeks. It's essentially tabled to bring it in for a public hearing, so I don't see the need to delay it. I mean, the language in the ordinance is fairly clear in terms of, it seemed like one of the big hang-ups was control over the 3 of the entities in the city, or potentially, and where the extra money was going to come from. Excuse me. And if the money does not come from grants, then the salary will be adjusted accordingly in accordance with what we collect from grants. So that satisfies me. I was satisfied before, but Madam Solicitor, I think you did yeoman's work again on the the ordinance, it reads fairly clear for me, and I would rather bring it to a public hearing than delay it to bring it to a public hearing again anyway. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
Before I recognize Councilor Kazanjian, would you have to say that this amended ordinance before you now is in a much better form in the verbiage than the original one?
Well, I think it clarifies what the understanding was before. I mean, to me, the ordinance before, it didn't give the new position any authority over the auditorium, the arena, or over the CVB.
But I think it spells out the salary that
yes, yes, I think
from the general fund.
I think it's very specific in that respect. So I don't see any issue with it. But I think if we go to a public hearing, we get 2 weeks to discuss it. We really, if it's coming up before a vote, can't give a public opinion on it anyway until we have a public hearing.
Definitely.
So to delay it to discuss it
caution the council on that.
could cause problems. I think we should just move forward to bring it in for a public hearing.
Councilor Kazanjian and Councilor Mercer.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to put it off a week. I have a lot of questions for the manager, and I don't think it's fair for Mr. McCarthy for me to ask him questions where he wasn't involved with this ordinance. So I'd like to wait till the manager gets back next week, and this way here I can ask him the questions and see what hopefully can answer him. And I don't think it's a deal breaker if we wait a couple of weeks or if the public hearing is put off 2 weeks. I mean, it's been put off before, and 3-4 weeks is not going to matter. And I think we should put it off. And this way here, if I'm going to vote on it, I'm going to be sure what I'm voting on and what I'm not voting on. So I just like to put it off a week. And thank you.
Councilor Lindsay, I'll get to you, Mr. Sheehan. Councilor Lindsay, then
Thank you,
else?
Mr. Mayor. I'm a little bit discouraged that, I haven't been able to discuss this with the manager, and I have some questions. And, the last time we voted on this, the next morning the manager was on WCAP talking about what happened and how they were going to bring it back and all of those types of things. But I'm just very disappointed that I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and discuss this position in depth and understand what role exactly that it plays in the whole picture of things. We just discussed that the revenues from the historic board will subsidize the salary. Another question I have is all of these organizations that belong to COOL. I think we should look at subsidizing this position from all of those organizations in addition to the grant money. We're creating a position in another month. From what I listened to last week, we're going to be looking at, I hope, the manager said that I hope there's no layoffs, but that didn't come across as, there's not going to be any layoffs. So I think the timing is bad once again. I just have some concerns. I would like to sit down and have a discussion and understand this topic and this position better before I make any kind of vote on it. So I support the idea that we should push this off until we have an opportunity, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's as a group of councilors who have concerns and want to understand this position better.
Councilor Milonazo, then Councilor Wiedemann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I don't see what difference it would make if, in fact, we did push it off a week to then schedule a public hearing for the 27th. However, I just want to make sure that if we discuss this next week and ask questions of the manager and the solicitor, that we're doing so without obviously jeopardizing the intent of the public hearing itself. Again, you were kind enough to provide both ordinances, and I think the new ordinance clearly states exactly what the position will be and how it will be funded, so I'm clear on that. And I think that I would caution my colleagues about talking about monies that would be appropriated in the future for particular positions, be them city positions or positions that we support through other agencies that Councilor Lindsay talks about, because I think it's all part of the same pie. But again, if we do need clarification, I think we need to be careful as to when we ask those questions, either before or after the public hearing. So again, I'll be happy to support delaying this until the manager's back so that next week we'll refer it to a public hearing. But again, I would just caution my colleagues, I guess.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel Ahmed Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I don't see any reason why this can't be delayed for a week. We've been working on this for a long, long time. In fact, I was mayor at the time that this was started. So delaying it for a week, I don't think is going to cause any problem, especially if there are questions that need to be answered and need to be answered by the city manager. Because although I supported this originally, and I still will, I do have some questions about the final ordinance that was put together as it relates to the special events coordinator, the cool board. So I don't see any reasons why this can't be delayed for a week. And so I'll support the motion to delay this for a week.
Counsel Martin, anything? Counsel Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The vote tonight would have been to send this to a public hearing for May 20th.
Right.
If I delay it a week, the vote will be to send it to a public, will be to vote to delay it for a week.
Right.
When we come back next week with discussion, it'll be a vote to send this to a public hearing for May 27th.
Right.
I don't see a problem with that. And I do have concerns about it. I have concerns with language. I have a concern with clarity. Maybe I'm not an attorney, but when it says the director's salary will be adjusted accordingly to what? Why can't it say the director's salary will remain at whatever the salary is that from the beginning? You know, in the event the cultural grants are not available, the director's salary will remain at $45,990. Why can't we say that? The director's salary would be adjusted accordingly to what?
Well, when Manager Lynch comes back next Tuesday, I appreciate what Counsel Milanese brought forward. We can ask questions, but you have to choose those questions delicately and don't be biased on your opinion, because it has to go to a public hearing and it has to come forward at.
But
yes.
until it goes to a public
Right.
hearing, we can't speak and ask questions.
And
if
that's
it
all
goes
I'm
to a
doing.
public hearing,
Right.
well, then we can't.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So, yes, Counsel Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe if it's not too late, I don't know what, that wording can be changed a little bit, maybe to reflect that it will be
That's-
$49,000 from the city and grant funds received up to 18,000, you know, whatever that,
Sure, the
18,413.71.
right, that's the intent behind it, and maybe it isn't as clear as it can be, and I can certainly make it even clearer to reflect exactly what it is you're talking about.
Yes,
And
that's
put
all I'm
and put a
asking.
cap on it, and I understand
Thank you.
I understand
That's
your
all I'm
point.
asking.
So
Sure.
what you will have, should the council vote to delay for a week,
Mm-hmm.
when this comes back for a week, you will have even clearer
That's it.
language
There
than
you
what you
go.
have right now.
That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
And I don't see any fear of this going to a public hearing. It will go to a public hearing. So the motion was made by Counsel Rita Mercia,
Yes.
seconded by Counsel Kazanjian, to delay action on this
For 1
particular
week.
vote for 1 week.
That's it.
You want a roll
yes.
call vote? You want a voice vote? Voice vote? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? This is delayed for 1 week, and Manager Lynch will be back to. Mr. Sheehan, I'm sorry. Did you want to? You all set? Okay. I'm sorry. Any subcommittee reports? Yes, Counsel Milanese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two items under subcommittee. The solicitor was good enough to put on everybody's desk this evening a copy of the proposed amendment to Rule 5 regarding regular meetings. So that, again, is on everyone's desk. So I would suggest that next week, in keeping with the solicitor's rule, that we need to have this at least a week before we vote on it. I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that you now have it. I know that the solicitor will say that we've already had it and we've already met that requirement, but I think it's important that we let the public know the date that we're actually going to vote on it. So I would request that we vote on the rules amendment next Tuesday on the 13th.
Thank you. Accept the communication, place it on file by Counsel Ahmed Mercia, seconded by Counsel Broderick. All in favor?
And the second item, if I could, Mr. Mayor, on May 14th at the Lowell Development and Financial Corporation is going to be a housing meeting regarding foreclosure issues. I know that Mr. Sheehan will be there along with the city manager, and I again want to extend an invitation to the Housing Subcommittee of the City Council to be there. It's going to be at 3 o'clock at the offices of the Lowell Development and Financial Corporation. I will ask the city clerk to post that as a public meeting, since I'm inviting the other members of the Housing Subcommittee to attend that meeting. It's going to be May 14th at 3 o'clock at 11 Kearney Square.
Thank you. Accept the communication by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Broderick. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The communications have been accepted. Yes, Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to make an announcement for the Auditor Oversight Subcommittee. We're going to meet May 27th, it's a Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. To hopefully wrap up the review for Ms. Wright, and also get into the free cash report and start analyzing that, and hopefully get a better understanding of where we're at in any other, wherever that leads us.
Eddie, aye.
All right, thanks.
Right. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're on subcommittees, there is a flood subcommittee next Tuesday at 5:30. That's May 13th at 5:30 here in the council chambers. And then the following week, we've scheduled a environmental subcommittee meeting at 5 o'clock to discuss recycling and solid waste issues. So just wanted to mention those meetings.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. I did have an occasion to speak with Councilor Kazanjian earlier this evening, and if the other members of the Economic Development Subcommittee are available Monday, the 19th at 5:30, we'd like to get together and talk about reviewing Councilor Kazanjian's motion on city-owned property and what the administration's plan is to deal with the sale of city-owned property. So the 19th at 5:30.
Any other reports from subcommittee chairman or anything you want to bring forward? Okay, we'll move on. We have two claims. Refer them to the Law Department by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Two claims are on the way to the Law Department. Motions by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the city engineers begin the process to have the city accept Marshall Avenue, seconded by Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the years, as streets need to be resurfaced, we find that more and more streets do not qualify for any help because they're what you may call unaccepted streets. Therefore, they do not qualify for repaving under Chapter 90 funding money, and God knows that our meager budget for street repair cannot spread that widely. Some time ago, I found this scenario to be true when I asked the city manager who came before Council Manager Lynch that Raven Road fell under the category of an unaccepted street. The same scenario with Nightingale Terrace. Both have since been accepted and repaved. I asked that a campaign be waged and that we accept streets a little at a time so that the streets most in need of repair but weren't accepted for Chapter 90 funding be accepted. Thus, this motion is a continuance of that request and that campaign to request that the manager have the city engineers start the process to have Marshall Avenue become an accepted street for the possibility of being repaved under Chapter 90 funding. And I also want to submit a copy, a record of a copy of a petition with names of 16 Marshall Avenue residents that say, "We, the undersigned, petition the city of Lowell to accept Marshall Avenue as an accepted street. It is in dire need of paving." There's 16 names from all the residents of Marshall Avenue. I think this is a good first step to see if we can finally start that campaign and continue it to have these streets accepted. I know that in Tingsboro, they face this issue quite widely. I don't know how wide it is in this city, but this is one street that can't be repaved because it isn't an accepted street. So I'd like to submit this for part of the record. Thank you.
I received the same request from a constituent on them.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that forward.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion? Councilor Elliott?
I just wanted to ask Mr. McCarthy, Chapter 90 money, Mr. McCarthy, we received a communication, I believe, from the state 2 weeks ago regarding Chapter 90 money. 1.4 million has been awarded to the city for street resurfacing. The list you gave to us, I think maybe it was a couple of months ago, is that chapter money Chapter 90 money going to be used for that list of streets?
All of our street paving program is currently being funded through Chapter 90.
All there's no
As
city
well
money?
as well as all bridge repairs, anything, basically, any road work, reconstruction, or repair is coming out of Chapter 90 at this point. I think we have an allocation of about $35,000 for sidewalks at this point, as city funds. So we're using community block grant money, we're using Chapter 90 funds. Whatever we can get our hands on, we're gonna try to utilize.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Motion by Councilor Elliott, City Council requests the city manager to meet with the Green Building Commission relative to exploring wind power and other alternative energies for the landfill and other sites in the city, seconded by Councilor Broderick.
I know that I filed something on a similar notion in the past, but maybe because I work at EPA, I see all these articles and information come across my desk. Schools putting up windmills to power individual schools, and knowing the discussion we had last week with the Riley School, and hearing that it takes 11,000 gallons a month of oil to run that boiler, which is good. We need to provide the heat, but I know the manager spoke last week that maybe the landfill might, we're taking another look at, putting windmills up there. So, just wondering, we got to continue to explore ideas. I don't know, the wastewater treatment plants throughout the country are now putting up windmills if they're in the right location. And so I happened to speak to Chancellor Meehan this week about potentially some partnership, or if there are some students or graduate students that may be able to assist the city, and they're actually doing a wind study on some of their buildings. So I don't know if the administration can contact Chancellor Meehan. He is aware of this, and he's willing to put some resources or see if they can find somebody that can maybe conduct some studies at some locations in the city that might have a potential. I'm not saying we have to put up these big, huge, monstrous windmills, but even some of the smaller ones that can power enough electricity, or solar panels, using methane, some of the methane gas from the landfill. These ideas, I think it's clearly time that we need to pursue in a vigorous manner, considering we see oil going up. You can't even keep track of it these days, how much it is a barrel. So that's the essence of the motion, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Just one question, Councilor. Who would put these windmills up, a private developer, or not the city?
In many cases, there are private developers that do it. I mean, Cape Wind is probably one example. I know there was a private developer in Quincy. I think it's called Patriot Wind or Patriot Energy, but maybe Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Council, we do. From time to time, we get a lot of contractors, programs and ideas that come through. Just recently, I know that Public Works, Dave Blazon, explored some solar panels, or the possibility of putting solar panels on top of JFK Plaza, JFK, the building. And it's just not making sense right now financially, but I think as time goes on, and as we will follow up with any and all possible energy sources that we can utilize, including working with the university. We're working with one program right now as far as trying to formulate the best way to come up with energy-saving products to utilize in the JFK Plaza as well. So we will follow up to see what we can get for alternative energy generating that in some city properties.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Can I just ask one more question? And I know this sounds crazy, but it's happening in many parts of the country. Have we thought about biodiesel for our trucks?
We currently we haven't. Couple of things we're looking at right now is through the automation of the gasoline dispensing system right now. So we're looking to see if we can get some efficiencies in automating that system. But there is also going to be some expense of getting some tanks right now to put into the ground, and then any sort of conversion. But we are following with other, especially on the public works side, we are taking a look at to find out what options are out there and what other departments are sort of doing. Certainly we don't want to be following, but we want to keep abreast of those and make the proper investments when the timing's right.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have one brief comment. Contractors and developers can practically do anything today. They put these windmills in the ocean. When I first moved into that neighborhood, the landfill was approximately 50 to 60 feet deep into the ground, and that was filled. And now the neighborhood calls it Mount Trashmore, so it's probably 150 feet of trash. So whoever puts these windmills would have to go through 150 feet of trash and methane and indent the membrane that's there. So there's quite a bit of engineering that'll have to go in installing anything on that trash mill, Mount Trashmore, whatever you want to call it. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Motion by Council Milonazo. City Council, because the city manager had the proper agency clean the area near the Plain Street exit ramp on the inbound section of the Lowell Connector. Great motion. Seconded by Councilor Rita Mercer.
Mr. Mayor, the motion speaks for itself.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And you know what, Councilor? That is a trouble spot every single year, spring, summer, fall. And I don't know why members of this council have to keep bringing it up to remind people. So, Mr. Manager, is that the responsibility of the state?
Mr. Mayor, we sort of divvied that up a little bit. Some of the area belongs to Mass Highway, and some of the area, especially where it says "Welcome to Lowell," that area is under city care.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Council Martin.
I assume we're gonna do the same in the Welcome to Lowell area, the exit that goes on from the Lowell Connector onto Thorndike Street, now that the weather is with us, and allow that to
That's
be the
correct.
case.
We'll
Okay.
get out there.
Right. I often got complaints about that during my time as mayor, but I always thought it looked terrific, so.
I did, yeah. Someone sees something negative about that? I think it's nice.
I used to, honest to God, I used to appear monthly on the radio, and I would get a call from the same resident every time that the city didn't properly weed whack before laying down the rocks over the.
Oh, I know what you mean, yes.
So, but in spite of that, I think the city does a very good job, and it's a very attractive gateway into the city.
Moving on with the agenda, motion by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the city manager update the city council on the status of the sign code, seconded by Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did, as we all know, we at one point did have a pretty aggressive sign code, but some years ago, it was actually, I'm not sure it was done away with in its entirety, but I know that we don't have as an aggressive sign code as we once had. So I would like the manager to update the council on the status. If you drive outside of the historic district, I think some of the signs that are now being put up, I think, again, it's all in the eye of the beholder, I understand, but I think that we need to get more aggressive on the type of signs we're allowing in the city, so if
I
we could
noticed
just
some
get a
signs are
report.
missing on streets and so forth.
Correct,
So we
right.
should take an
Right.
inventory on that. And Mr. Manager, did the city replace or reinstall the handicap parking sign on Back Central Street in front of the Portuguese Club?
I didn't see anything come across my desk, but I can.
I brought it up last week, and National Grid removed the 4-foot pole.
Yes, I did see that. We'll make sure that's on.
Again, Mr. Mayor, this motion has more to do with business signs that are being
Yes.
put up and,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor. No, I think that's a good motion. I mean, it's one of these things that, you know, I know what Councilman Milonazo was talking about. You drive around and people just put up signs whenever they want. And you can understand a yard sale or things like that, but it's the ones, you know, advertising a business or advertising a website, and you wonder, you know, who's going to take them down? You know, they blow down, they're going to end up as trash. So I think it's a good idea that we revisit that sign code. And I know we've had discussions about political signs in the past, but there's still no regulations. And I know it's a constitutional issue, but I still think that we should have some guidance for, you know, for those signs too. So it's a good motion that I think we need to take a look at. Thank you, Mayor.
Motion by Councilor Kazanjian. City Council requests the city manager to have the proper department or agency repair the roadway in front of 361 Andover Street, seconded by Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Mr. McCarthy. Yeah, in front of 361 Andover Street, the Andover Street's a concrete road, and there's a hot top pavement for a patch, and it's a good-sized patch. And what happens you get a car, and especially a truck goes over that, the people in those homes are complaining of the noise and goes right through their house. So I was wondering if we can eliminate the hot top patch and put concrete back there. And there's a few others on that roadway if it can be done. I mean, it would eliminate a lot of noise that they don't need to hear.
And that noise travels right down.
Oh, it does. It goes right, it says it goes right through their house.
Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a related motion, and I don't know that much can be done, but I did have somebody ask me about sidewalks on Andover Street, and I know in the past, Mr. Manager, I thought that either you or Mr. Walsh had put together some sort of report on that. Given what you said earlier about that we had $30,000 for sidewalks, I'm sure it's cost prohibitive, but if there is an existing report, I'd like if you could get a copy of that to the council so we get some idea of the sense of the problem we're dealing with.
I know there was one for Harvey Street, but I'll look to see if that,
Okay. Oh, that's right.
they seem to be going
Maybe
back,
maybe I'm
going back and
confusing it,
forth.
but-
Yeah. on those.
Okay. I mean, I'm not looking for a make-work project, but if something exists. Okay.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, the motion carries. Final motion of the evening is by the mayor. If there's no problem, we presenting the motion. The motion by Mayor Caulfield, City Council requests the city manager to have the traffic engineer investigate the traffic flow and the parking areas at Hadley Street at the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Seconded by Councilor Armand Mercier. Very briefly, Kentucky Fried Chicken, their parking lot in Hadley Street, you can't distinguish which is the street and which is the parking lot. I've come home some evenings and turned onto Hadley Street, and there's cars literally parked across Hadley Street eating chicken, thinking that they're in the Kentucky Fried Chicken parking lot. That's the truth. And another serious issue is cars leaving Kentucky Fried Chicken don't even stop. They just pull right out onto Hadley Street. So before there's a fatality there, a serious accident, I'd like the traffic engineer to go up and discuss this with that business. They're going to have to put some sort of barrier or some marker to indicate that that's a street and put a stop sign so when people pull up. My daughter was going home the other evening and she almost got hit broadside. And the people don't realize that that's a street and it's not their parking lot. Councilor Kazanja?
Thank you, Mayor. You're right on target with that. I get on Hadley Street quite a bit, and well, if I'm bringing my children to Kentucky Fried Chicken, I get on Hadley Street, and you can't tell. They think that drive-through is, or the roadway is part of the drive-through.
Right.
There should be some type of guardrail separating the two.
Right.
To let them know about it, to make them aware of it.
And to Ann Barton's credit, Ann went up there a few years ago, and they painted like a white line, but the white line's gone now, and the white line didn't really materialize into anything of importance.
I actually think some type of guardrail should be there. Yeah.
Definitely has to be some, and a stop sign letting people know that you can't just go out onto the street because someone's going to get killed there, and we don't want to see that happen. So all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I just have a few, yes, Council.
Mayor, I know I have 3 motions on here, and 2 of them have been answered. The one on the state funds, we have a report from Adam Bakey, and I did get a report on the Edward Street irrigation system. But I also have one here to have the request the school department apply for grants to retrofit school buses for diesel exhaust.
But I have in front of me, Council, I don't have those motions.
Counselor, I would have to apologize. I misunderstood the communication that you had sent requesting that
That's okay.
only the first motion be filed.
That's fine. Can we take up the school retro bus? Because
Sure, I apologize, Council.
That's
I
okay.
didn't.
There's funding out there for these, and it's.
I'm only reading what I have.
Okay.
Council Elliott, you have the floor.
Well, the motion is just to have this, I think it would be the school department, because that contract comes under the school department, apply for, for state funds. There's a pool of money that just came out to retrofit school buses with this apparatus to restrict the diesel exhaust. And it's Lowell's a prime candidate. In fact, I've spoken to a woman down, I think it's Clean Water Action, that said, please apply, because they look at communities where there's, the particulate matter is a certain percentage, and we'd be a very viable candidate for it. And it doesn't cost the city anything, doesn't cost the school department anything. So that's the essence of the motion, Mr. Mayor, if you could carry that message over to the school department.
I would bring that forward, but I think it would be the responsibility of the contractor who furnishes the buses, and we'll bring that forward.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Anything
you.
else, Councilor?
That's it, Mayor, thank you.
Before I recognize Councilor Broderick, I just have a few announcements to make, and they're very important. The Acre Youth Organization will be holding their opening ceremonies on Saturday, May 10th, 2008 at 12 noon at the Michael Kumasalis Park, located behind the Bartlett School. Kiki Rudy, who does yeoman's work there, tireless work for those kids, would like to see members of the council attend the Lowell Cemetery Annual Memorial Day Remembrance, Sunday, May 18th, 2008. There's the U.S. Air Force Band, the Colonial Brass Band, a band concert at 12:30, parade to begin at 12:30 at the Belvedere Gate on Knapp Avenue, and will proceed into the cemetery where they will have memorial services. We've all been there before, and Irene Finner would like to see us there as well on May 8th. Yes, Council.
Now, just a question, that's not Memorial Day weekend, that's
No.
the weekend prior to...
No, May 18th, and they
Yeah.
always have services at the cemetery prior to Memorial Day. So everyone has that notice before them. And the Lowell Veterans Council, they're pleased to announce their Memorial Weekend schedule, Saturday, May 24th, 9:15, the Franco-American War Veterans at St. Joseph's Cemetery, Chelmsford, will hold services. Saturday, May 24th at 10:15 a.m., the Lowell Veterans Council, Ladd and Whitney Monument, Lowell Memorial Auditorium at 11 a.m. They will hold memorial services. Saturday, the 24th at 10:15 a.m. at the Ladd and Whitney Monument. The Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans Park, North Road, Chelmsford, they're going to have a service at Saturday, May 24th at 2 p.m. The Sunday, May 25th at 12 noon, the Polish American Veterans on Coburn Street always has Memorial Day services. The Sunday, May 25th at 2 p.m., Korean War Veterans, St. Joseph's Cemetery, Willett Monument. Monday, May 26th at 9 a.m., the Armenian American Veterans visit grave sites of deceased members. Monday, May 26th, 9 a.m., the Veterans of St. Louis Parish, Veterans Park, Veterans Way in Lowell. Monday, May 26th at 11 a.m., the Portuguese American Veterans. There'll be a mass at St. Anthony's Church, parade to Monument, Central and Charles Street. And that fulfills the, there's two other announcements. Monday, May 26th at 10:30 a.m., the Dracut Parade at the Greenmont School in Dracut. Monday, May 26th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Korean War Veterans Andover Parade dedicate the Korean War Memorial. And that would take care of the memorial services and notices. Have I forgotten anyone? Okay. The chair would like to recognize Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to ask if we could suspend the rules for a moment to discuss another issue with the Riley School that was brought to my attention today. And I figured with Mr. McCarthy here, it might be suitable to touch upon it briefly.
Second, to suspend the rules by Councilor Milonazo. All in favor of the suspension of the rules, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Suspensions are in order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McCarthy, I got a call today that they had a PTO meeting apparently last night, and there was concern that the temporary heat is going to be pulled again June 1st, and that there would be limited amount of hot water and might create it's going to create a concern for the parents with cleaning dishes and health violations and that and such. I told them that I didn't think that something like that would be happening, and that we could.
We won't be pulling it until we research any and all issues.
Okay, because the concern was that there's
closes.
going to be a 50-gallon tank to service the whole school, which would be difficult just in cleaning lunch paraphernalia and whatnot, and so they can rest assured that it'll be handled.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's been enough hot water issues, whatever issues are there. We're trying to work whatever issues come up, we'll
Yeah, I think
settle them as they come.
the concern is June 1st, if the heat gets pulled again out the boiler, whatever it is, that's
I
all.
don't know when the school gets out the 15th, but we'll
Yeah.
certainly
Okay, that's
be
all.
in contact with the principal. I think that's important that we get that, communication with the principal and the administration to make sure that they're satisfied and all the needs are being met at the school.
And if they can let the parents know, maybe that's just a little misinformation. Thank you.
Okay.
Council Cassandra?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we were up there Friday looking at it, and there is a 50-gallon hot water tank over there, and maybe talking to the head custodian doesn't feel it's going to be enough once the the temporary boilers are pulled away. So maybe we can put another 50 and put them together to make 100 gallons, and maybe that would be sufficient, but at least we'll talk to the head custodian, or put a 150-gallon hot water tank to service the needs for the time being till we get everything up to where it should be with the
Absolutely,
permanent
Council.
boiler, so.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a big expense to do that. It's not really much at all, so. Okay, thank you.
I think the head custodian also mentioned about putting that hot water tank probably in the kitchen, where they could utilize that.
He
hot
did,
water.
yes, he did, Mr. yeah.
I was out of the school last Friday with Council Cassandra, and we discussed with the teachers and the children and so forth. And while we were there, they were bringing in the portable boiler. They hooked it up. They have heat there, and the children and the parents were and the teachers, extremely happy. And we witnessed teachers with gloves on, mittens on, children with heavy sweaters on. That's something that happened. Hopefully, it will never happen again. So, any other discussions? Thank you for a great meeting. Move to adjourn by Councilor Armitage, seconded by Councilor Martin. Thank you.